In any work of fiction, what's the most powerful ability? Let's look at Magic the Gathering and the seemingly endless cast of characters with magical abilities. Which is the strongest? From planeswalkers to gods, from casting spells that destroy entire worlds to creating life itself, who is the most powerful character in all of MTG? Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ether Hub. I'm Simon, bringing you more Magic the Gathering lore. Today we're trying to answer the age-old question always eventually posed in any fandom: who's the strongest? And if you clicked on this video just because a kooky wizard who just got a card in Commander Masters is in the thumbnail, then you probably already know who I place at the top of my list. This disheveled, wizened old man is known simply as Commodore Guff. Fans of the older lore will probably recognize him from the Invasion Cycle novels. While Guff has appeared on cards in the past, this is his first formal card in Magic the Gathering history, set to release with Commander Masters in August 2023. You can find out all the latest information for Commander Masters linked in the description of this video. And that brings us to the perfect time to say thank you to Wizards of the Coast for sponsoring this video. This is my debut as an MTG ambassador, which means they'll be helping to support my content so that I can make it the best for you guys as possible. They love Guff, I love Guff, so this was a natural fit for some sponsored content. Now let's explore Commodore Guff's new commander card, as well as his lore, and learn exactly why he's the most powerful character in all of Magic the Gathering. And before we begin, don't forget to leave this video a like, share it with friends, and become a subscriber to help support this channel. Now, let's get into the lore. In Commander Masters, Commodore Guff's card is a legendary planeswalker that costs 4 mana, blue, red, and white, entering with 5 loyalty counters, and it naturally can be your commander. It has a static ability at the beginning of your end step, allowing you to put an extra loyalty counter on another target planeswalker you control. Its +1 ability, create a 1/1 red wizard creature token with the ability tap and add 1 red mana, but you can only spend this mana to cast planeswalker spells. Its -3 ability is that you draw X cards and it deals X damage to each of your opponents, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. Yes, you guys, this is a Super Friends commander. Finally, a major payoff for those who run planeswalkers exclusively. Clearly, this card is designed for a planeswalker party, generating more loyalty counters for planeswalkers, more mana for planeswalkers, and actually acting as a win condition by nuking all of your opponents based on your number of planeswalkers. Yeah, so planeswalkers matter. I know Commander is a crazy environment to play, and Commodore Guff fits perfectly with that crazy. And all that planeswalker love isn't just great for Super Friends players, it actually goes well with Guff's story. Now, despite not having an ultimate ability, this card is fashioned perfectly to pay off a specific playstyle. Now, I'm not a Super Friends player personally, and the absence of green mana from what I know may be a bummer to those players, but it's clear the card has some ultra powerful effects. It's not the card specifically that makes this character powerful. No, I believe Guff was the most powerful character in the MTG lore because of his story, which I think is illustrated rather well in this Commander Masters card. Commodore Guff is best known for his participation in the novels of the Invasion Cycle. This was during the time of Phyrexia's first invasion of Dominaria. The novels focus on the planeswalker Urza as he again battles with his long-hated enemy, Yawgmoth, as the Phyrexian god's forces plan to take the plane of Dominaria. Guff at this point is already an old and very wise man whose early history is now lost. A native of Dominaria, Guff was always inquisitive and curious. Being knowledgeable and learned, Guff quickly rose through the ranks of intellectual society through the Tolarian Academy. It was here that Guff would eventually discover a lost library, one that seemed almost magical in nature. This library was big. Like, you can't even see the walls big. Like, Guff doesn't even think it has walls big. The rows and shelves of books seemed to stretch on forever, an endless font of knowledge, he believed, describing everything from across the multiverse, noting its entire past, but also its entire future, preordaining events to come. It would be here that Guff would have his own Planeswalker spark ignite, becoming a powerful being obsessed with these writings and how they lay out the fate of the multiverse he could now explore himself. Yet, he chose to remain with his beloved library. He was its custodian, its student, and its friend. But in this isolated life, Guff forgot how to appropriately interact with the rest of society. Because he literally lived in the pages of his books, Guff's behavior can seem a bit off. He's rather eccentric and loves to make ridiculous claims. To some, he's rather amusing and endearing. To others, Guff is just annoying. Regardless of his personality, Guff was still a powerful pre-mending planeswalker, which Urza would eventually recruit for the defense of Dominaria against the Phyrexians. He convinced the Book Hermit to join their group, known as the Nine Titans, in a counterattack of Phyrexia itself. At this point in the first invasion, Phyrexia had already launched countless attacks via interplanar portal ships carrying their shock troops. But this wasn't enough to take Dominaria. Now Yawgmoth launched the second stage of the invasion, employing a strategy known as the Wrathy Overlay. This attack would be unprecedented. The physical presence of the artificial plane of Wrath, built by Yawgmoth as a staging ground for his Phyrexian armies, was to phase atop of Dominaria's reality. To put it plainly, the world of Wrath was now grafted onto Dominaria, meaning that in an instant, all of the hundreds of thousands of Phyrexians stationed there were ready for an attack. Though this opened Dominaria up to Phyrexia, it too gave the heroes of this story an opportunity to counter this assault. While Dominarians fought valiantly to save their plane, Urza, Guff, and the rest of the Nine Titans went to Phyrexia to strike at the heart of their enemy. Urza's plan was to overwhelm what forces remained on Phyrexia, knowing that its attack on Dominaria drew many away. With powerful planeswalkers clad in special-made power suits designed for killing Phyrexians, the plan was to simply tear down this dark world. This is also why Commodore Guff cares so much about other planeswalkers. He joined the original Gatewatch, if you would, so I'd imagine helping your allies was a top priority of Guff's. Guff himself was a unique addition to this mission. He had knowledge of the future, books from his library that described not only the fate of Dominaria, but the Multiverse as they faced the Phyrexians' multiplanar invasion. In no uncertain terms, Guff knew that their mission would fail, and that Phyrexia would ultimately win. The ending had been written, the ink dried. Phyrexia would scour the multiverse. Despite this, Guff joined Urza on his mission, where he would befriend another planeswalker named Bolivar. Through their exchanges, Bolivar would notice that Guff held more knowledge than he cared to share. Guff here would regularly break the fourth wall, which of course confused the other characters in the novel. If you're not familiar, breaking the fourth wall is a phenomenon in fictional writing in which a character somehow knows that they are a character in a story and make references to that fact, or even directing their attention to the reader of the story itself. For a good example of this, just think of Marvel's Deadpool. Breaking the fourth wall to me is one of the most powerful things a character in fictional writing can do. Knowing one is nothing more than a character in a story dictated by someone else is knowledge that fundamentally changes the way a character interacts with the story and other characters, leading to Guff's rather eccentric behavior. It's heavily implied that the vast knowledge Guff read from in his Dominarian library, that there was one book in particular that described the future of the multiverse, and that book was in fact the lead story development of Wizards of the Coast. Essentially, it was a copy of the invasion novels already written out with the Phyrexians winning the conflict. Guff never shared this information directly with any of its comrades, stating that he signed a strict NDA, or non-disclosure agreement, with an unnamed party, in another example of breaking the fourth wall. Bolivar was able to convince Guff that, since he had the book, he could perhaps change the future with it as well. Guff had no clue what to actually write in place of the Phyrexians winning, so instead, he just erased the major parts of the book that indicated the enemy's victory. With this act, Guff left a clean slate for the heroes of Dominaria to fight for their own future, to write their own destinies. Maybe Phyrexia would still win. That wasn't the point exactly. The point was that they now had control over their own fates. That fate would seem dark at times, namely when the Nine Titans failed in their mission to attack Phyrexia and Urza surrendered himself to the enemy. Guff too would meet an unfortunate fate, as the final stage of the Phyrexian invasion saw the arrival of Yawgmoth himself on Dominaria. Taking on the formless shape of a death cloud, Yawgmoth's poison spread throughout Dominaria, killing an untold amount. Guff was just one such soul. However, in making this change, it allowed others, like Gerard Capuchin, Karn, and the Weatherlight crew, to find a way through this darkness and defeat Yawgmoth forever, something that simply couldn't have happened if the story stayed the way Guff had found it. Guff may have died, but it was his knowledge of the future and subtle change to it that ultimately saved Dominaria and ended the first Phyrexian invasion. The man who knew he was merely a character in someone else's story found a way to rewrite everything and change reality. Guff took control of the future, taking it away from even the writers of the story themselves and seemingly placed it back into the hands of the characters. And that, to me, has to be hands down the most powerful ability a character in Magic the Gathering has ever possessed. So, with Commodore Guff making his in-game debut with Commander Masters, he's bringing every Super Friends player a bit more love. Say what you will about his actual card, but at least in my opinion, Guff stands as one of the strongest, if not the strongest, character in Magic the Gathering. It's incredibly OP for a character in fiction to know that they're fictional and break that fourth wall. But Guff doesn't stop there. Oh no, he uses that power to change the future of the story. Changing reality? Yeah, I'd say that's pretty OP. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's video. Again, I want to thank Wizards of the Coast for directly sponsoring this look at Commodore Guff and his lore. And if you want to get your hands on this quirky and, quite frankly, OP Planeswalker, be sure to check out Commander Masters when it releases on August 4th. The Great Commodore will be featured in his own pre-con commander deck, so if you're looking to party with some Planeswalkers, you have a great place to start with Guff as your commander. You can check out everything coming with Commander Masters by checking the link found in the video's description below. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you want to support our content here, consider leaving the video a like, sharing it with friends, and becoming a subscriber. It goes a long way in helping us grow the Ether Hub. And until next time, guys, see ya!